It's Saturday, 19 March. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel. And yesterday on 18 March, a U.S. Marine V-22 Osprey tilt rotor was lost while on a training mission in Norway. There were 4 fatalities. Let's take a look at this video clip from Twitter from Grumpy Lars and the NRK, the Norwegian news agency, which apparently shows 2 Ospreys flying the day of the accident before the weather deteriorated. Visual low level in daylight conditions in mountainous terrain in icing conditions. Preliminary reports indicate that this accident occurred in this area here. Let's take a closer look on Google Maps. This is the area where they believe the accident happened, in this mountainous terrain in these deep valleys, some 50 kilometers or 30 miles south of Buda. Buda is where the airport is located and is believed to be where the Osprey was trying to return to, and that's where the joint NATO airbase is also located. Of primary concern for accident investigators is going to be the deteriorating weather. There were no less than 8 weather advisories sent out either during this accident or shortly after this accident. Investigators will have to figure that out. Here's the 8 weather advisories, including high winds and avalanche warnings. And the weather was so bad that it also hampered the rescue operation. My first question for the Osprey community is, what's the all-weather de-icing, anti-icing capability of this aircraft? And doing some research here, it looks like back in 2004, they had equipped the Osprey with full de-ice capability. And look at this, by Ward Carroll. Mooch, is this you? Could you give us a little insight as to the de-icing capability of the V-22? And as recently as 2020, Meggitt Corporation here looks like they've got the most recent contract to provide de-icing capability for the rotors. Another question I have for V-22 operators is, when you do your tactical low-level checklist regarding your terrain following radar, do you turn off the warning function of the terrain following radar to avoid nuisance warnings? During the 2012 cold response NATO exercise, a Norwegian C-130J model was lost due to a CFIT accident, controlled flight into terrain, for flying too low in the mountains in a non-radar environment in bad weather. As a former C-130 pilot, I can tell you that we are constantly training. There are many training squares to fill to remain current and qualified for all the different tactical maneuvers that you need to be able to do with your weapon system. Same thing goes for the Osprey. So we do these training maneuvers often at our local base, but then you need to take your experience and take it off the base and practice in some of these exercises, like Operation Cold Response or Exercise Cold Response in Norway. Cold Response is an exercise that's been going on since 2006. It goes on every 2 years, and it's been scheduled long in advance. But note here that the 2020 and 2021 exercise were both canceled due to COVID. So there's a loss of currency and recent experience as a result of COVID from the loss of the last 2 exercises. The whole idea of Exercise Cold Response is to get out of your regular training regime and go out and practice and see what it's like to try to do your job in Arctic type conditions. At this year's exercise, there's 30,000 troops from over 27 countries participating in Operation Cold Response, and it'll be done here at the end of the month.
I think you should be able to come away from a cold weather environment and be at one with the environment and just understand the effects that the cold has and how you operate and how you combat that.
The weather can be the single most dangerous enemy you ever face. Recent crashes with the New York Army National Guard, the Idaho National Guard, which we talked about on this channel, and the most recent one in Utah are all examples of pushing the weather too hard, and not only brings the crew into the equation, but also brings into question the leadership and the pushing of the weather to get these exercises done. An example I have as a C-130 pilot from my old unit here flying, we used to fly, one of the many different training missions we flew were night formation, low-level training exercises in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And that was broken down between ski station keeping equipment, basically an IFR exercise, and also visual night low levels. The basic rule was, if you're doing a visual night low level and the weather deteriorates, you need to do an emergency IFR climb out of there and then abandon the visual low level completely. And yet there was pressure from those in staff and management to get the job done that wanted to continue that visual low level in the C-130 once we had already done a climb out off of the visual low-level environment. I said, no, we've done an emergency IFR escape. We're done. I'm going back to the base. And that was a very hot debate in the debriefing room following that. But there is pressure to get these training missions done in deteriorating weather when there oftentimes should not be. So this accident report will take several years to complete. They first got to figure out the jurisdiction, since this did happen over in Norway, who's going to be in charge of the accident investigation. They will get to the bottom of this. Thanks so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that sponsor this content. Thank you. See you here.